0.
Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and this is the Barbarian Lounge podcast. Thank you guys for joining me today. We've got a pretty good show lined up for you today. I'll just go ahead and give you a little bit of forewarning. We're probably going to be, in this particular broadcast, probably going to be pulling as many triggers as Yosemite Sam does, so stay tuned for that action. So let's get a few things out of the way before we get started. As usual, our website's thebarbarianlounge.com. You can go there, check it out. We also have a donate button on there where you can click on it. It'll drop down a menu. There's a lot of different options you can use to help donate, to support the show. We also have a store there. On the donate button, we've got one-time donations. We also have different affiliate links on there where you can basically just bookmark that link. And like one of them is Amazon. You can bookmark that link to Amazon. Just do your regular shopping, and everything you purchase, we get a small percentage here that helps out this show and keeps us running. Also, you can become a member on our Patreon site. You can become a member on our Patreon site. That's patreon.com/thebarbarianlounge. You can become a member there, and just for as little as $1 per episode, when we do no more than 8 episodes per month, so it ends up coming to, if you do $1, it's $8 a month to help support the show. With that membership, you will also get all of our shows early. Our 4 regular shows, they come in early. You also get access to 4 exclusive shows. 4 exclusive shows, they're only available on Patreon. So if you become a patron today, you can catch up on all the shows you've missed. You can check out some of the exclusive episodes. We've done a lot of really good ones on there. Right now, we're in the middle. This week will actually be the last week of our special on Musashi's writing of Dakota. I've really, really enjoyed doing that. It's been a 4-part series, and it has been just some really enlightening material. And just doing the show, I've learned a lot from it. So you can go there and check that out. Also, some of the other topics we get into on there, in the aspects of preparedness. I like for it to be something for my listeners. I like for it to be, if you're a member, I want you to get intelligence from that. I want you to get information, how-tos, things we can do. We talk about prepping a lot on there, and I get a little deeper into it. Also, we get into some more controversial subjects that I don't like to put on the open airwaves. So if you want to check those out, get a little skin in the game, as little as $1 per episode, and some people do more. And I urge you, please, every little bit helps keep the lights on here, keep the mic running, keep me fueled up and ready to go to bring you this show each and every week. So check that out. Our member site, patreon.com/thebarbarianlounge. Also, you can check us out on ucy.tv every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can go there and check that out. Also, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, all those nice little sites there. Sponsors, Mitacon, MitaconUSA.com. You can check Mitacon out. You can head to their website, and as usual, guys, as you know, got my trusty cup of Mitacon here, ready to go here. Let me just read this nice little shtick here for you. Mitacon, with a proper diet, supports the cell's fastest, most effective absorption of natural nutrients in each 250 milliliter bottle and sustains the body's mitochondria generation of usable energy, key to producing ATP, the energy-rich fuel the body needs to achieve peak athletic strength, performance, endurance, and recovery. So yeah, check them out. You can head to their website, check it out. We're looking to try and set up a deal to start carrying Mitacon in the store, trying to get some stuff worked out with that. So hopefully you'll just be able to go to barbarianlounge.com pretty soon and pick up some Mitacon from there. So I can tell you, one of the things that really helps me, man, you guys know I get a little wild when I'm on this show sometimes, and it kind of helps me to stay focused on topic. It's difficult sometimes. My brain works very interestingly sometimes. It's kind of all over the place at times, and thoughts constantly coming in and out. It's crazy, and sometimes it gets difficult for me to focus. I'll kind of drift off. So I try and keep my Mitacon here. Take sips throughout the show. You'll probably hear it jingling around in my cup here, and hopefully I can stay on task. I'm going to need it today. So you can also check out Odinson Archery, OdinsonArchery.com. Traditional bows made from non-traditional materials. There's tons of different options on there. You're going to be seeing some interesting stuff from Odinson Archery here pretty soon. I'll just leave it at that. But you just may be seeing it in a big name publication coming up right now on the magazine rack. So just keep an eye out. We'll keep you posted on that. But go there, check it out, OdinsonArchery.com. You can get bow packs, arrows, releases. We got a lot of stuff on there that's you can't get anywhere else, plain and simple. And if you do, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, or you're going to have to buy it from overseas. One thing about Odinson Archery is 100% made in America. That's right. If you want to make archery great again, you can make America great again at the same time. So check it out, OdinsonArchery.com. Made in America archery shit. So today, the topic for today's show is something that I would call pretty simple. I was trying to think of a good, catchy name. You know, you like to have little catchy names for your show and all that. But this entire show was really kind of spawned from a discussion I was having with some individuals online. And I say it's a discussion. I don't know if it would be much a discussion after a while because, you know, it gets to the point, you know, when you're starting to talk to people online, you're throwing facts at them, and slowly but surely they just keep kind of, you know, going back to the whole emotional standpoint, and, you know, all they're concerned about is my feels and, you know, their feelings, my feelings, and it's like, okay, all right, so we can't really have much of a dialogue here. But I tried to think of a nice little snazzy name, and the only thing I could think of was a phrase from the movie from, I think the movie was from the 90s, pretty sure it was from the 90s, with Brandon Lee in the movie The Crow. And the phrase I'm thinking of is a phrase where he says, "Victims, aren't we all?" Right? So that would be the topic of this show, victims, aren't we all? You know, and I say that very sarcastically because if you've been keeping track of things going on right now in this nation, especially this nation, I don't even really need to talk about the rest of the world. Let's talk about the nation, man. The eternal victimhood that's being played out right now across the United States with the election of Donald Trump is absolutely astounding. And I think each day I see little things posted, I'm thinking, you know, I'm not going to see anything crazier than this. And sure enough, people prove me wrong. You know, if you're following Alan Odinson on Twitter, or actually I think it's the Barbarian Lounge on Twitter, you go there and you follow some of the stuff that I post and repost and things like that, and it's absolute insanity that you're seeing out there. We're seeing protesters, you know, I just posted one. I don't remember if I posted. I think I did post this on Twitter and also on the Facebook page. But we saw protesters surrounding a vehicle. Guys driving through the street. Some kind of Columbus Day protest. Anyway, this guy's driving down the street. There's protesters standing in the road, right? So they're standing in the road. They're surrounding the vehicle and all this good stuff. And, you know, and the guys in the car, he's like, or it's actually a white truck. The guy's telling him, he's like, you know, guys, move, get out of the way, get out of the road. And they're standing there and they're just screaming at him. And it's not like the guy's against their beliefs or ideals. He hasn't expressed anything other than, please move, I need to travel down this road. Well, slowly but surely the orcs start surrounding the vehicle, and they start yelling at him. And, you know, he's like, okay, move. And you hear the guy at the driver's side window say, I'll snatch you out of that fucking truck. Well, as soon as you move to that level, you've now threatened my life. You've threatened me, and now you are a threat. So, guess what's getting ready to happen? I would even say probably should have happened before, but either way, he steps on the gas, plows him over, and drives off. And as soon as this happens, as usual, what do they start yelling? Let's call the cops, let's do this, let's do that, you know, because they're out there protesting the very nation that, they're protesting the nation, protesting the authority of that nation, yet as soon as something happens, that's who they turn to. You know, it's like these guys that that I always laugh at the anarchists and stuff that I say, wait a minute, whoa. Let me back up. I'm going to put that in reverse. All right, there we go. We're reversed. I used the term anarchist, and that was me using a mainstream term. Those people out there are not anarchists. They are the protesters. They are Antifa. They are communists. They are cultural fucking Marxists. Those are the people. All my anarchist people out there, I'm sorry for associating you with that lot. Because, words do mean things. But, these guys, they'll sit there and protest. They'll protest, and yell, fuck the police all day long. And then as soon as they get popped in the mouth or something, they say, call the cops. Aren't you going to arrest them? Well, what do you want? Do you want no law? Do you want law? Do you want some law? What is it? And it's like I've talked about it numerous times on different shows talking about these commie fucks. At the end of the day, they want their imposition. It's not about liberty and justice for all. It's liberty and justice for some. They want to be able to say what they want to say, but they don't want you to say what you can say. So it's very what's the word I'm looking for here? It's very shit. I lost my train of thought, guys. It can be one of those things where basically it's a they'll make the decision as to who gets the rights and who doesn't. I'm sure you guys are thinking of 100 words right now, but my brain's not fully online just yet, so you know what that means. Mitochondria time. Shameless plug. But today we're talking basically. This is about victimhood, victimology, the victim mentality that is going on in this nation right now, and there's a lot of it. It's all over the place. Let's talk about a definition here of victim. What would old Merriam-Webster say victim is? Victim as defined, a person harmed, injured, or killed as a result of a crime, accident, event, or action. So most of the people who are out there doing the protesting right now, have they been harmed? Well, they're protesting a president who was not even in office yet. We're right now 3 days into his administration. Well, I guess technically he was inaugurated on a Friday, so Saturday, Sunday. So right now we're right in the first week of that. Okay, but they already had their minds made up as to what he was going to do before he even got in, right? Well, so far nobody's been harmed by him. Nobody's been injured. Nobody's been killed. There's no crime committed. No accident. The event was, I guess, the inauguration. Action, nothing there. So why are people so caught up in this whole idea that they've been victimized? They need to get out there, let my voice be heard because, the election wasn't fair. Well, actually it was fair. At least the best we can tell. Either way, fair or unfair, guess what? It's over. No amount of bitching, no amount of breaking windows at Starbucks, no amount of burning trash cans, no amount of punching people in the face is going to change that outcome. When I talk to a lot of people who have this whole victim mentality, this whole victim mindset, it's funny. It's like every single eloquent thing I can think of to respond to them can pretty much be summed up in 3 words: get over it, right? Just get over it. Because at the end of the day, the victim mentality is about holding on to things really that you have no control over. It kind of goes back to the and it's something I initially heard originally. I don't know if it belongs to him, but I give credit where credit is due. When I was listening to Pressure Project, when you listen to Tuan Tom and Master Chim speak about the idea of there are no victims, only volunteers. Now that phrase alone, I've had that discussion with a lot of people, and that phrase alone hits them right in the feels. I mean, every single time. Just it's a baseball bat to the feels, and a lot of people have trouble with that. And the only people that I tend to find that do not have issue with that are people who are very used to the world of violence. Law enforcement officers, military men. When you discuss this concept with them, they understand it a good bit. One of the big ones I can think of, I recently talked with a guy I know who's in law enforcement. We were talking about the shootings and stuff going on in different areas, even local shootings. And he says a lot of the people that he deals with who have been shot, he would never call them gunshot victims. He would always call them bullet recipients. And basically what that boils down to is the reason they were shot was not because that they were just some random drive-by. Most of the people they deal with are people who were, out selling drugs. They were in the wrong place with the wrong people at the wrong time. And everything they did, all the actions that they did throughout that day, throughout that week, maybe even further back, led to them receiving that bullet on that day, at that particular time. That bullet, I guess you could say, had their name on it. If you look at a lot of the violence that's going on in places like Chicago, what do you see? You see a lot of it is gang violence. You see a lot of gangbangers getting blasted there. Okay? You see a lot of their families getting shot. Let's be honest. Let's be perfectly honest on that. Those people brought that on themselves through the people they associate with. And I'm not talking about just some random drive-by into a house. I'm talking about a drive-by on a house of another gang member with him and his family, his children in there. Yes, that individual volunteered for that to happen. The wife who stayed there with him, she volunteered for that to happen. Not that you're really going to find much of that in Chicago, but all that shit. The only people who would not fall into the category of being a volunteer for that would be the children, because the children don't have the ability to make decisions for themselves. But all those people, it's tough for me to feel sorry for them. It's like I just recently saw where one of Obama's, one of the people he released through his mega pardon, game that he played before he left. One of the guys was a convicted distributor of crack cocaine. Well, they just found him recently dead, bullet through the head, and he was apparently killed by two other guys who had found him and tied him up, shot him, and all that good stuff like that. Well, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to feel sorry for this guy? I mean, really? Well, he wasn't a violent offender. Really? Well, actually what he's doing is he's actually worse than a guy that goes out and shoots one person on the street. He's actually a distributor of poison throughout the entire community. In my eyes, that makes him just as worse, if not worse, than the actual guy that's out there pulling the triggers. Okay? So, I don't have any remorse for this guy. He chose a life, and hey, that life caught up to him. Who knows who did it? It could have been, some people whose lives were ruined because of the shit that he peddled. Could be some rival dealers. Could be some people he dropped a dime on. We don't know. But either way, the only thing I can 100% verify about this whole story is that a scumbag is dead. A dealer of crack cocaine, a drug dealer, a poisoner of the community is dead. I have no issue with that whatsoever. He volunteered for that lifestyle, and he got the rewards of it. The thing that really gets people about the whole victims versus volunteers thing is the idea is, at the end of the day, when you really break it down, and there's a lot of different ways. I'm sure there's tons of people who can break this down much more eloquently than I can. But the way I look at it, it's basically a harsh way to invoke a sense of responsibility. If you always view everything that you're not a victim of X, then you will always have responsibility for what happened. If you take the idea that I volunteered for that to happen, well, guess what? You're always going to have responsibility for the actions that happen. Just like some scenarios, just to map some things out. When you talk about, I talk about fighting on here. I talk about martial arts, mixed martial arts per se. Trained numerous fighters, fought myself a couple times. So let's say, for instance, I'm in the cage with a guy, and let's say I'm a boxer, and let's say I decide to hop in the cage, and I go up against a wrestler, and he takes me down, right? He takes me down, and he's punching me the whole time on the ground. He does it for 3 5-minute rounds. Just keeps taking me down. I can't stop the takedown. Can't get any good shots in. It keeps happening. Then after the fight, I go, he didn't really do anything. He just kept taking me down. It's like, yeah, that's actually part of the game if you look at it, okay? He was able to impose his will on me, and I was not able to impose my will on him. So at the end of the day, I volunteered to have my ass taken down repeatedly and beaten up. It's the same as if it was opposite. If I was a wrestler and the other guy was a striker and I couldn't take him down, but I couldn't strike with him as well, well, guess what? I should have trained some striking so I would not be a volunteer for that. I've heard the scenario. I heard Master Chim use the scenario of a drunk girl, a girl who's had too much to drink. She's staggering around wearing a miniskirt. She decides to walk down a dark alley. Well, she's volunteered to be attacked. She is all the mistakes she made leading up to that point has led her to that spot. Do I approve of it? No, I don't. However, you cannot deny that she made numerous mistakes getting there. It's the same for people that don't have a relationship with violence. If you're not trained to use a firearm, if you're not trained to use medical is a big deal. When I went to the fight, I had minimal medical skills when I took that class at Tactical Response. Minimal. And there were many instances where I needed to use my medical skills in the scenario, and I did not have them. Is it their fault for throwing medical scenarios towards me and I wasn't prepared? No, I volunteered for that. I did not receive the training that I needed to be able to handle that situation. It's the same for, let's say, like a car problem. I'm not good with cars. Guess what? If my car breaks down, I don't know what to do with it. It's not the car's fault. Guess what? It's my fault for not knowing how to fix it. So what you start seeing with this whole idea, when you take this mentality, it's not some, just I'm trying to be an asshole the whole time and just, everything's your fault. At the end of the day, everything that happens to you, you do have a hand in it. It's all about responsibility. It's about taking the power away from other people and claiming it yourself. You have the responsibility. You have everything that happens to you is your responsibility. If you got a business and it fails, guess what? It's not the seller's fault. You did something wrong. I've told you many times as it relates to my own business, as soon as I took that mentality of, okay, the business isn't working, what's the problem? I used to say, well, people aren't coming to class, people aren't doing this, people aren't doing that. But now, as soon as I changed it over and said, what can I do differently? What can I do better? It made me constantly evolve and keep moving. And that's why I'm growing strong today. Okay? That's why everything is climbing instead of falling. Remember, the purpose of the climb is constantly climbing. If you miss a step and fall, you can blame it on the fact that the rock was loose, or you can blame it on the fact that you weren't paying attention. Okay? Where you were putting your hand. All right? Maybe there was a route that was a little bit different, but you tried to take a shortcut. Well, guess what? The difference is how do you deal with it? Do you dwell on the fact that you missed that step, or do you start climbing again? And this is where the whole victim mentality comes full circle. Most people that fall into the category of this eternal victimhood, they're always dwelling on the fact that they missed that first step, or that last step, right before they fell. It's the guy that gets KO'd in the fight, and he's like, oh man, he constantly dwells on the fact that he should have kept his right hand up. Okay, I shouldn't have dropped my hands. Well, it's over with. Learn from your mistake, climb again. All right? It's very easy to fall into that mentality. I see it a lot. When I recognize it in myself, I verbally, like a crazy person talking to myself, but I verbally say, okay, all right, what are you doing here? What am I doing wrong? And it's funny, my wife always tells me that every time that something happens or something's not going right as far as from a business standpoint or whatever it may be, she said I go into like brainstorming mode. And I said exactly, because if it fails, I have nobody to blame but myself. All right? So we're going to talk about some different ideas when it comes to victimhood. As I said, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today was triggered from actually some conversations I've been having on social media. And granted, if you know me from social media, usually with me, I'm not the type that really wants to poke and prod a way home. When a lot of people, they will think a lot of times when I'm having a discussion with them online that he's debating me and all stuff. No, actually, I'm trying to get show material from you sometimes because I want to see where your mind's at. I want to see just how far you're willing to go. And sometimes I'll say things that are particularly provocative to see what sort of response I get. Will they come at me from a logical standpoint and everything like that, or will they attack with feels? 9 times out of 10, they attack with feels. So
I get dressed in the morning. I'm triggered. I take a shower. I'm triggered. I get in the car. I'm triggered. I go for a walk. I'm
So we're going to talk about some of the different common triggers that are out there right now. A lot of people at this moment in time are finding themselves triggered by just about damn near everything. But at the root of it, there are really three common triggers, I guess you can say, that's out there amongst the left. It's really out there pushed by the mainstream media, the communist infiltrated media. That's what I would call them. You can't call them, I know everybody likes to call them lamestream media and everything, but at the end of the day, when you really look at their rhetoric, everything that they put out, they're communist at heart. Their rhetoric is very anti-American. It's not about unity. They'll praise and scream about how we need to come together about unity, but their rhetoric speaks otherwise. But there tends to be, for the most part, three common triggers, I guess you can say, amongst the liberal left that really tends to be the focal point of their rage, I guess you could say. Or at the end of the day, it really becomes an issue of trying to push a level of white guilt upon people. But we're going to talk about these three particular triggers right off the bat. They've both been at the forefront of everything we've been seeing since the Trump inauguration. But let's hit those real quick. So we're gonna pull some triggers here. We talk about the first one here is Native Americans. That tends to be a big one, and I've spoken a good bit about some of my past heritage. As we know, my heritage tends to be Northern European as well as Native American. That's one of the pieces that makes me up. So I am sympathetic to in a sense to the Native Americans' plight, I guess you can say. However, I also understand the reality of basically what happened when the European people got here. I always make the joke whenever you see people talk about the Native Americans, I make the joke, I call it kind of a spoof off of Whose Line. I say, we can call this Whose Land Is It Anyway? The show where reality is made up and the facts don't matter, right? And that's pretty much how it is. There's this idea amongst the left that for some reason the Native Americans, they lost their land. I hear it all the time. I'm sure you've heard it as well, that when the Europeans got here, they don't say Europeans, they say when the white man got here. When the white man got here, he stole the land they stole America from the natives, right? We've heard that. They stole the land. Well, in actuality, they were conquered. They were a conquered people. And here's a news flash for you. Pretty much every ounce of land that anyone is sitting on right now was conquered by somebody at one point. But the question is posed, what was America before Europe arrived? I mean, what was the name of this land? What was the name of this country before the Europeans arrived? The answer is it didn't have a name. It didn't have a name at the time at all. It was just a hunk of land that was inhabited by some tribal people. Didn't have a name. When the Americans got here, they colonized. They brought civilization to the area. And, you can say what you want to about, they went back against this, went back against that. There's a common misconception that for some reason that the natives that were here, it was this utopia. Everybody was peaceful and everybody was helping each other. And it was just a wonderful place until the white people got here. Reality tells a different story. History tells a different story. There were many tribal wars at the time. Tribal warfare was a big thing. Still is to an extent. But, the tribes, they weren't just sitting back and every night that the Europeans would go out and kill some of them and come back home and, that was that. No, you have to understand when a people are becoming conquered, you're going to see a level of insurgency. So when you start seeing a level of insurgency from the people who are being conquered, well, naturally there's going to be some tension between them. So you had natives coming in attacking Europeans, Europeans attacking natives. That's the way it goes. That's war. That's the way the game is played. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but that's the way the game is played. Now, as it relates to the tribes, one of the main reasons I believe that they were conquered, and we still see it today amongst the tribes, is that they couldn't get their shit together. And what I mean by that is one of the downfalls of tribal society is becoming, basically it's something I've talked about of building your walls too high. So you get people that build their walls too high and they say, this is my people, this is my tribe, fuck everybody else outside my walls. Well, I could understand the concept behind that, but the problem comes when there's a threat on the horizon and your walls are too high to pay attention to that which is coming towards you. When you do that, slowly but surely the people around you, as you see, let's say, several mountain ranges over, you know that such and such tribe is now being attacked by the Europeans. And you say, fuck it, not my people, not my problem. Okay, they get conquered by the Europeans. Europeans move closer, and then the next tribe there, they start getting attacked. And you say, not my people, not my problem, I don't care. Slowly but surely the tribes are picked off one at a time because they can't get their shit together. So as they do this, they're weaker as a small unit. Okay, there's unity in a large group. That's a common. You basically have a large fighting force. Think about this. Imagine if all the tribes could have gotten their shit together. They had all of their shit together, and they were a massive group to repel back the European invaders, if you want to call them that. Imagine if they had done that. The nation could be very different right now. The outcome could have been very, very different. They probably would have had the resources to push the Europeans off the side of the country. But they didn't. They didn't have their shit together. They were too worried about their own people. And they were conquered. And there's no reason to apologize for that. There's no reason to apologize for the fact that they were conquered. People get conquered, people lose, and the fight is over. And guess what it's time to do? It's time to move on. But you find a lot of times in a lot of the Native American cultures, you see these people start falling under a category of poor me. Well, the white man took this from me. The white man took that. And I just look at them and I say, how long ago was that? I mean, you don't see Irish slaves walking around, Irish people begging and complaining about how their people were Irish slaves all the fucking time. They don't blame the poverty that they may be suffering on the fact that, we were Irish slaves at one point. Okay? There comes a point where you have to start moving on. And a lot of times the Native American culture will tend to use this level of guilt that's pushed on a lot. I've made the statement that I thought that the issue that's going on with the Access Pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline, the Standing Rock, all of that issue that's going on there, where you have all of these people there not caring about their own country, but caring about a land that is not even under dispute at the moment. But you got all these people caring about that, and you got them kneeling there and bowing. They have this picture of the soldiers bowing and kneeling to the chief elders and everything, saying, we're so sorry. That whole level of white guilt pushed on them has a lot to do with why this protest is getting so much attention. There comes a point where people have to understand, it's like, look, the past is the past is gone, it's time to move on. Even if you look at a lot of these reservations, a lot of these reservations, the tribal elders are interested in collecting money, having power, having control, while their people suffer in the meantime. So it's with the whole Dakota Access Pipeline, as I've talked about before, basically what you have from my source there, who is a member of a Native American tribe in that location, says basically what you have here is the issue with greedy chiefs. The tribal elders, they're interested in having money, more money. They made a deal with the oil pipeline, backed out of that deal and said, we want more money because we think we can get more. And the oil company gave them the bird and said, nope, ain't going to happen. And, we're going to protest. And then they draw everybody in. You get all these people exercising their white guilt that they have for something that they have probably had nothing to do with. A lot of them, their ancestors probably didn't have anything to do with. And they bring in their cult of personalities and all their movie stars and everything are talking about standing right this, standing right that. And not one of them has done any sort of research. But they want to seem like they're doing something important. The whole time they're being misled by these tribal elders. So whenever you start talking about this whole idea, this victimology, if you want to call it that, you don't have to look too much further than the Native Americans. One of the things I always respected about guys like Russell Means was very much about, rest in power, Russell Means. One of the things I liked about him was the fact that he was very much into the strength of the native people. He was very interested in promoting their sovereignty, which I'm also a fan of their sovereignty. But at the same time, he also was telling them, look, you got to get your shit together. We have a legacy of a strong native people, and you're trashing it by constantly staying caught up in drugs, caught up in this whole game of alcoholism and everything, which is a bad thing on the tribes right now. It's something that a lot of the tribal areas are suffering from. You know, you've got your sovereign land. We can't keep going about this whole idea of, oh, well, you know, the white man took it from us and they didn't give us as much as they said they were going to, yada, yada, yada. It's over with. It's time to move on. And that's really the key to the whole breaking the whole victim mentality. It's time to move on. It's time to go and become stronger. The whole time that you're falling under this victim idea that for some reason every bad thing that's happened to you is because of somebody else, you constantly are enslaved to those ideals. Sip of the drink here. So trigger number three. Talking about enslaved, we're talking about the African American culture. I've been having long discussions with individuals. I think they think I'm trying to troll them, but in actuality, it's show prep. I'm trying to get the idea, because one of the things I've been very vocal about is the fact that I'm interested in opening the dialogue between people on the left. I would like to get these people, give them a voice to speak on my show so we can have a discussion. The more I try and do it, the more I'm finding that is not going to happen. Because I'm willing to ask them questions. I'm willing to ask them why they are refusing to become empowered, but rather live their lives in a state of victimhood that allows them to be controlled. I'm asking those questions. And the dialogue will open very briefly. But slowly, once the facts start destroying their distorted reality, all of a sudden they pull the racist card. It's easy for them to do because I'm a white guy, right? It's easy for them to toss it out and say, boom, racist card, that's it, game's over. Me, if you've listened to my show, you know that doesn't sit well with me. I'm like, okay, if that's what you got, then throw it. But I want to have a conversation. And at that point, they do not want to have the conversation. They cut the dialogue off. And as I've said, once the dialogue ends, once we can no longer discuss our differences, that's when things get violent. And we don't want that. We don't want that. We're ready for it. Don't get me wrong. If the left wants violence, the right is absolutely ready for it. Trust me. Trust me on that. If you're a person on the right and you're ready for violence, give me a damn right. But you know, I don't want it to come to that. I'd actually love one of the founding things of this nation that makes it so great is the fact that we do have free speech. We do have the ability to discuss our differences. But as soon as you close that gate, for dialogue, now things are getting bad. And I've been trying to have this conversation with several people in the African American community regarding how they are they fall into this category where they're being manipulated through this perceived victimhood. And I know when I say that automatically boom, 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 triggers going off, right? But the thing is, you have to understand, people like the Reverend Al Sharpton, people like Jesse Jackson, people like what's the guy's name? Forgetting his name. Whatever, he doesn't matter anyway. Let him be forgotten like the soldiers of Troy. You know, all of those guys, their whole story, everything that they spew out of their mouth is designed to promote weakness amongst the African American community. And if anyone should be pissed about that, it should be the African American community. You should be pissed about that. Because these guys are saying, they keep telling you, you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim. They should be willing to stand up and look these guys in the face and say, I am not a victim. I am not a victim. Because as soon as you claim that role, as soon as you say that you are being victimized, you have given the power over to somebody else. You've given them the power to control you. You're saying that their actions control what you do. My friends, that's slavery again. You haven't broken any chains. Your chains have now become invisible. But you know, I hear a lot. One of the things I bring up a lot of times from the guys I talk to in the African American community is I say, I say, you guys are starting to, I hear them when we talk about a lot of the problems. You talk about what's going on in Chicago. I've done 2 shows on that, a couple of YouTube videos regarding Chicago, and I always get told that that's just something that racists come up with. They start talking about Chicago when they want to push the racism. And I'm like, no, I want the shit fixed. There's children dying there. People are having to leave there, and now those people are migrating south, and now these fucking scumbags are moving down here, and I don't want them down here. That's why we're seeing an uptick in crime around here. A lot of those people, they're not native South Carolinians that we're running into. But I see this whole thing. They say, you know what? It's bad for us. We can't get our shit together because of slavery. And I say, okay, well, are you a slave? Well, no, I'm not a slave. Was your daddy a slave? Well, no, he wasn't a slave. What about your great-granddaddy? What about your granddaddy? How far back does it have to go before you can find out that you were enslaved? Okay, that's a long time ago, guys. At least to the 1860s, right? Obviously going back further than that. But they want to say that everything that's going on, the crime, the poverty, the houses, the families that are broken apart, all these things going on, the gang violence, all of that is because of slavery. And then they look to me and say, well, where's our reparations, right? It's always funny to me, side note, the whole reparation thing. When people look at me and they say, hey, white people owe us reparations. I think that one guy, who's that motherfucker that's got a book coming out about offering reparations or something like that. I can't remember his name either, so fuck that guy as well. But he's got some kind of book coming out saying it's like a message to white people or something like that. And, he's basically making an argument for reparations. And I say, well, tell me this. Why are you asking Europeans for reparations? Because at the end of the day, who was the one doing the selling? If you actually look at your research, you find that it was the Arabs who were running most of the African slave trade. It was African people who were running the slave trade. They were at war, tribal war, yet again. The people they were capturing, guess what? They were loading them up and selling them to many different people. And Europeans, among also some of the Caribbean areas, to the Arab communities also. So why are they not asking those people for the reparations, right? Because they're the sellers. They were the ones actually doing the selling. Why are we not looking at those guys, right? Instead, you see Black Lives Matter and all these other groups embracing the Arab community and loving Islam in the process, while that was the very system that led to their enslavement to start with. Let's be honest. If you buy, let's say you buy some, I don't know, let's say you buy a car, right? You buy a car, and you buy that car, you bring it home, and the next day the car doesn't work. It's a lemon, right? Who do you blame? Do you blame, or who can you throw the blame at? Do you blame the person who bought the car, or do you blame the person who sold the car? Who is at fault for the selling of a shitty vehicle, right? So obviously you would say, well, they sold me a lemon. Well, so then you would ask for your money back from the individual that sold you the lemon. So do you blame the people that bought the slaves for needing workers? They needed workers. They would obviously take whatever they would get, right? Or do you blame the people who were actually victimizing, if you want to use that terminology? I don't like using that victimology term. Let's say they were monetizing their prisoners, okay? They were monetizing their prisoners. Who do you blame? Well, that you can make an argument for that, but most people would say you would blame the person who is monetizing other human beings. So I hear that whole argument, but you see a lot of this blaming of slavery for things. It's like, you're at, was it 12.3% of the U.S. population, but you're committing like 52% of the homicides. I think the African American youth is 16% of the youth population, and they're committing 52% of violent crimes, 67% of the robbery, and like 58% of the homicides. So there's something going on. There's a small percentage of individuals in your community let me rephrase that. There's a small percentage, you are a small percentage of the U.S. population, yet you're committing over half the crime. there's something going on. It doesn't have anything to do with something that happened to you in the 1860s, something you've never even experienced yourself. The reality of the fact is that the community is constantly pushing this whole idea of we are victims. And they've got all their leaders up there really quick to tell them. Hillary Clinton, that was the basis of her entire campaign was, you are a victim, vote for me. I will give you things, right? They're wanting you to be their pet. That doesn't move you any further past this whole ideology of slavery. You're just a slave with invisible chains. When you really start breaking free and having any sort of actual empowerment in your life, it's when you start separating yourself from that title of victim. They want to put that on you. Why are you allowing them to drape you in that garment of shame? That's exactly what that is. Being a victim is a garment of shame, and they're wanting to drape you in it. And why is that? Well, people who fall under a victim mentality, they're easier to control. That's a big thing right there. Because once they keep telling you that you're the victim, it's easy to get you riled up, right? And we're seeing that right now. Black Lives Matter, right? It's very, very easy getting them riled up. All it takes is just the right people to keep saying, oh, it's a victim, he had his hands up, all these different things like that, and what do you get, right? You get riots, you get things destroyed everywhere. And then they'll push ideologies of Jim Crow. Oh, what about Jim Crow? Jim Crow. Most of the people who are making these comments were not alive during that time. And you have to understand, Jim Crow was going on all over the place at the time. It was not a Southern thing. It was not a Northern thing. It was going on everywhere at the time. And there's a lot of aspects that played into the establishment of Jim Crow that I would urge you to look into. We could do a whole fucking show on that. Maybe I can find an expert to get on and talk about what was actually going on with the Jim Crow laws and why they were instituted in the first place. But at the end of the day, one of the things that and it's funny when I try and talk to these leftists who are African-American leftists, man, you start talking to them and you're trying to have a legitimate conversation about what's going on in the community. Because that's, at the end of the day, you guys know my position on that. I say it's a community issue. Donald Trump can't fix it. He says he's going to send the feds to Chicago. It's not going to do anything. It's going to be all-out war. Donald Trump can't fix it. The mayor, fucking Rahm, never let a good crisis go to waste. Emmanuel, he's not going to fix it. The cops aren't going to fix it. At the end of the day, the community has to be willing to come together and fix what's going on. They need to ask themselves, what is the root cause? What is the root cause that are leading these people to want to become gangs? I've stated many times, and I'm sure it's debatable, and I'm sure many people question it. I've stated that a lot of it has to do with the broken home, the lack of a father figure, and they're looking for a figure to hold that position, hold that mantle of man in their life. So where are they going? Well, they see the gang stays stable, right? It's a stable, and that's where we go. Okay? Especially with men. Men want to belong to a group of other men, especially. It's naturally ingrained into our psyche. So, we get this whole thing where we constantly keep hearing about how slavery did this. It happened. I hear the thing all the time. It happened because of slavery. It happened because the things that are going on right now is rooted in white supremacism and how the whites have done this and the whites have done that. And I try to tell these people, I said, do you not understand that you are taking the role of victim here? That's not a position of power. That is a position of someone who is under the control of someone else. If you truly want to be a free, strong, independent man, you have to break those chains. When somebody looks at you and says, you're a victim, hell no, fuck you, I am not a victim. I'm a man, I am a free man, I am in control of my life. So I always have urged I know some very, very powerful, strong men in the African American community who you'll hear them say these exact same things. They understand because they know they're not. They'll tell you right away they're nobody's victims. They'll fucking knock your jaw out of socket if you tell them they're a victim. They're strong men and strong women at that too. And, it's one of those things where until the community starts to really start breaking these chains and stop listening to these snake oil salesmen of the a lot of them are some of the African, like, what would they, I guess you'd call them black nationalists or whatever. A lot of them are those types of people who are telling them, this was done to you and you're owed this and you got to get that. That's not what it's about. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you a little secret. This is a nice secret here about life. Life is not fair. Life is not fair for me. Life is not fair for a lot of people. In life, you get exactly what you deserve. And what you deserve is nothing. Nothing is owed to you. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you money. Nobody owes you a job. Nobody owes you health care. Nobody owes you reparations. Nobody owes you a car. Nobody owes you a phone. Nobody owes you anything. You get what you put into this life. And that's why here we choose to climb. We're not here for this whole victim mentality. We're not here to whine and complain and boo-hoo about everything. If you're listening to this show and you're thinking to yourself, man, I don't even know what this guy. Understand the root cause of what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is for you to let it go, to move on, seize the moment now, and continue to climb. Build your legacy here. You're not a victim. I don't care what fucking Al Sharpton tells you. I don't care what fucking Jesse Jackson tells you. I don't care what any of those guys. Louis fucking Farrakhan. That motherfucker. I don't care what any of those guys tell you. You are not a victim. And until you're willing to separate yourself from that whole label of victim that they're draping you in, there can never be any true growth, any true power amongst the African American community. Well, that topic gets me fired up, man. I have tried to have conversations with African American leftists, man. I have tried to have those conversations, and it starts out kind of decently, and slowly but surely, it's like, well, your white privilege is showing, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I don't understand. I mean, we're trying to have a conversation about community, and I give you an idea, you give me a response, and we talk back and forth. But when I give you an idea and you say you're a racist, well, we can't have any dialogue here. So it makes you look like a fool. The last one, the last trigger, one that's happening very recently, women's rights. Women's rights. We saw this whole explosion of the women's rights movement, right? Everything's coming full circle, and I look back to the Edward Bernays Torches of Freedom with the women's suffrage group, and they utilized that whole movement and had them. Basically, what happened was the cigarette companies they were only selling to men because it was kind of a taboo thing for women to smoke in public. So they hired Edward Bernays, a PR guy, to push this whole thing of having women light up in public at this parade, and they called it Torches of Freedom. Well, who's opposed to a torch of freedom, right? That's just like, who carries the torch of freedom? The Statue of Liberty. So they push that whole ideology to sell you fucking cigarettes. Now they're pushing this whole women's reproductive rights, right? This whole women's reproductive rights to sell you on abortion. And I can't say that I lean more towards pro-life than pro-choice, but I don't even want to talk about those two things, because at the end of the day, what we have is a push of women to support the killing of children. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. There was a picture I posted up on the Barbarian Lounge Facebook page. I think I posted it on Barbarian Lounge Twitter account as well. But you had a lady get up there, and she got up there and she was wearing a shirt, a large shirt, because she was obviously a large woman. She had a shirt that said, "I heart abortion" on it. And despite whether you're pro-life, despite whether you're pro-choice, whatever it is you want to be, you have to understand what this lady's shirt was actually saying. It was saying, "I love killing children." Because why would anyone who wants to get an abortion, I've talked to people who've gotten abortions, and they don't describe it as a pleasurable experience, okay? Why would anyone want to be happy and say that they love the idea of killing an unborn child? That's basically what her shirt was saying. Her rhetoric was just the same, if not harsher. Okay? A lot of these people, they don't understand the whole idea, especially, you try and explain it to a lot of black women as well. The founding of Planned Parenthood was through Margaret Sanger, who was pushing she said the whole reason she wanted to do it was to sterilize the black people. Okay? So, I mean, but yet you've got a lot of these people up there becoming the spokesman of all this. So you have to understand there's a lot of hands in the background pushing this whole ideology to rile people up. They also had a person speaking there. A black gentleman was speaking there, and he was up on stage, and the first few things out of his mouth was, fuck white privilege, fuck white wealth, fuck white prosperity. And it's like, what does that have to do with women's rights? Okay? So basically it was a way to draw in large numbers of people, because obviously you're going to have large groups of women who are going to support women's rights, right? Why would you be against that? Draw in large groups of people to have a massive show of force, so it looks like what they're doing is actually publicly acceptable. And throughout all that, it was a push for Black Lives Matter. It was a push for pro killing of children. It was a push for fuck Donald Trump. It was also a push in some instances of Sharia. We saw the lady that was putting on the entire event. I don't know if she was putting it on all the way, but she was one of the big names behind it. Was a proponent of Sharia law, and it's like, so you mean to tell me that this lady who supports Sharia law, which is treating women like shit, treating women like slaves, you mean to tell me that she is pro women's rights? There's pictures of her doing a little ISIS symbol too. So you have to understand there are many things at work here. There's a lot of things going on right now to cause tension in the nation, to undermine the president that we have currently. And whatever your feelings may be about the president, that's beside the point. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this nation, we're all in the same ship, and guess what? He's the motherfucking captain. Okay? He's the guy leading the ship. If you want him to fail, that tells me you want the whole nation to fail, and that does no good for anyone. So you had this whole push. You had the champions of women's liberation, like Madonna, who's under investigation now for talking about wanting to blow up the White House. Yeah, every time Madonna opens her mouth, she always talks about blowing something. So it shouldn't be much of a shock to anybody. So thank you guys for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Check us out at thebarbarianlounge.com, thebarbarianlounge.podbean.com. Check out our Patreon site, patreon.com/thebarbarianlounge. Become a member for just $1 per episode, total of $8 a month. Help support the show, help keep the lights on, help keep me running, and keep me fueled in the fight to the climb on the top of that mountain of success. For now, fellow barbarians, the lounge is closed.
are listening.